In this video, we're going to compare both of the Dying Light games to see which one is better. Now, I started playing both of these games in 2023, so this is just my opinion after being a new player to the franchise. I will keep in mind that the original Dying Light game came out in 2015, while the new one came out in 2022, so I'm going to bear in mind that the original game is kind of dated, not really, as that's not that long ago. I am going to be comparing these games across 5 different categories, and they're going to be movement, combat, graphics, story, and the map and environment. I could just bunch the movement parkour in with the combat and call it gameplay, but in the Dying Light franchise, these deserve their own different categories. So let's get to it. I'm going to start off with the movement, because if anyone's played the franchise, the movement is one of the best things about both of these games. Now, I have to give the original game a lot of credit here. For a game that was made in 2015, the movement is incredible. I'm sure if I played this game in 2015, my jaw would have been dropped through the entirety of it. It takes the best things out of any kind of open world free roam game and makes it something awesome. The only thing I can kind of fault the movement for in the first game is some of the surfaces are not climbable, and there's like certain ways you have to go about climbing up things, which I'm sure wouldn't have been an issue at the time, but after playing the second game first, I was kind of spoiled for the movement of that. One thing that annoyed a lot of the players about the second game is the fact that there's a stamina bar while climbing. I feel like it doesn't really get in your way at all, because when you have a lower stamina bar, you're in the easier part of the map where you can kind of climb everything anyway. The fact that you have a stamina bar while climbing is kind of irrelevant. If anything, it kind of just forces you to get better at climbing parkour in the game quicker, which in my opinion is kind of a good thing. Overall, I feel the movement and the parkour system is better in the second game because it just takes all of the annoying kind of in the way things from the first game and just improves on them. And this leads into the map kind of section, but because of the way the map is built, you can kind of just climb any way you want to in the second game rather than being forced to climb certain ways. So I'm gonna have to say that Dying Light 2 has a better movement system. I feel like it's just something that got better because I had the first game's movement system to improve on, but overall it is better. Now it's time to talk about the combat. After playing Dying Light 2 first, going back to Dying Light 1, the combat kind of disappointed me. In my opinion, it takes way too long to kill zombies in the first game.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
And it gets really annoying real quickly because the stamina bar just keeps draining, and then you end up just kicking them back until you get your stamina again, and it's like a rinse and repeat kind of thing. Even with basic weapons, the whole weapon leveling system is better in the second game, and it will kind of like stop you from entering difficult areas with shitty weapons. You'll know you're not equipped for that yet. One thing I love and hate about the first game is guns. Guns are going to be cool in any game. It's such a big contrast between having shitty weapons like pipes and wrenches that take 10 hours to kill any of the enemies, to then just having an M16 that will one tap them in the head. I will give the first game a lot of credit with all the DLCs that it's had. It has a lot more like variety of weapons to choose from. You can craft them very early in the game, which is I find is very, very cool. The combat just feels smoother in the second game. Like if you hit them in the head, you're gonna stun them regardless of almost what weapon you have. You can kind of just slice up the zombie body parts a lot easier. Like you can chop their legs off, their arms off. There's just a lot more improvements to the combat from the first game. Again, this is just something I feel like they had the first game as a base to go off, and then they just improved on things that were already awesome. But I will have to say, overall, the second game is an improvement on the first game in terms of just the combat. I know it's annoying that you can't repair weapons as easy, but it does encourage you just to get rid of weapons that you have an attachment to or a stronger weapon. In the first game, it takes an awful long time to get enough currency to buy better weapons from the store, and it also takes longer to sell all the stuff, like the valuables and stuff that you don't really need that are just there for currency. While there's like a sell all button in Dying Light 2, which saves quite a bit of time. So I will have to give combat to Dying Light 2 just because it builds on and improves the already great combat system that the first game had. Now it's time to talk about the graphics. For both of these games, when they released, the graphics were incredible. Now I'm not going to say that either of the games had the best graphics out there for the year of their release, but they were pretty damn good. Really, really high up there, I would say. I think it would really be unfair for me to say, oh, Dying Light 2 has better graphics. The game was made 7 years after the first one. Of course it's going to have better graphics, and it's made by the same studio, so of course they're going to get better at, like, you know, modeling environments and characters and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm not a game developer, so I don't know what that stuff is, but of course they're going to get better at it. You do anything for long enough, you're going to improve on it, and 7 years later, when the technology advances and you're building games on better systems, you're going to make better graphics. Comparing these two is kind of a cop-out, but I'm going to have to give both of them a point here, because as I said, both of them have amazing graphics for when they were released. Neither of them have the best graphics out there on when they were released, so for that I'm just going to put them on par, because it'd be unfair to say Dying Light 2 wins this round because it has better graphics. Okay, now it's time to compare the story to both of these games. Now I'm just going to start out by saying neither of these games have the best game stories ever written. They're not bad, but it's not why you remember either of these games. These games are more memorable for the gameplay, simply put. Killing zombies, parkour, it's what you're playing. But the stories are pretty good, I'll give them that, but they're just not like, you know, written by Shakespeare or, you know, directed by Steven Spielberg. Let's just put it that way. In the first game you play as a character called Kyle Crane. He's an agent for the GRE. Probably should have looked up what that means. They're like the disease control kind of people, and he's on a mission to stop the spread of a confidential document, or what he thinks is a confidential document, and he's under the impression that if this document gets out there, it could mean the death of millions of people. And while he's on the quest to stop the spread of this document, he gets wrapped up in local politics. While in the second game you play as Aiden, who definitely was voiced by the same person because the two characters sound identical, and Aiden is searching for his long lost sister Mia, and while he's searching for his lost sister, he also gets wrapped up in local politics. So the two games are fairly similar in terms of story. You're searching for something, you get wrapped up in local politics, stuff happens. No award goes to either for, like, you know, creativity. Give a slight edge to which has a better story to Dying Light 2, and this is only because of the choice mechanic. Because you have to make choices throughout the game, you get more invested into the story because you feel like you need to know what's going on before you make a decision that could change the outcome of your gameplay. With the choice mechanic system, it opens the game up to different endings, which opens the game up to replayability. If you get really invested in the story of this game, you'll replay it until you get the good ending, perfect ending, and the bad ending. I always think replayability is a major thing in any game, especially if you like it. A person's a hell lot more likely to go back to a game if they like it, if there's a reason to go back. And for this alone, this wins for me. There's nothing like this in the first game, so this round has to go to Dying Light 2. Now it's time to talk about the map and the environment. The maps in both of these games, very, very well made. Can't sugarcoat it. A lot of the attention to detail in the map design is based around the movement system, which is awesome. They were completely aware of how big the map was when they were making Dying Light 1, and they made a lot of ways that you can quickly get through the map with the overpasses and tunnels. It still takes a lot of running, but there's direct routes that you can take. It's just kind of annoying to get to them. Dying Light 2, they made a bigger map, and they were aware of this, so their approach to making this feel smaller, easier to get around, is they separated it in two. You play the first half of the map in like an easier zone, and when you progress enough through the story, you make it to the second stage of the map, which is a lot more difficult to traverse around, but by the time you get there, you have a lot of abilities and equipment that makes traversing that environment a lot easier. And because of the sheer size of things, they also added fast travel, so you can use the subway to just get around the map a lot quicker, which takes a lot of the annoying running back and forth completely out of the equation. I'm gonna have to give the map design and the environment point to Dying Light 2 as well. The map is made better, it's more fun to traverse it. There's never really any point in the map that you have to go down onto the street, which makes getting around at nighttime a hell of a lot easier, and avoiding volatiles and all that kind of stuff easier too, because you can just stay up on the rooftop if you're good enough at the parkour. So again, this round goes to Dying Light 2. Now, after going through all these categories, it does kind of seem like I'm shitting on Dying Light 1, as most of the points did go to Dying Light 2. Because it seems like I'm being unfair here, I'm going to give a bonus point, and a bonus point is going to be to Dying Light 1 because of content. The developers have been adding extra content to the game almost since its release. Dying Light 1 has multiple DLCs, a lot more weapons to choose from. It has guns, and it has more game modes, like the Night Runner mode, where you can get chased by an actual player that's a zombie while you try to destroy the nests. For all the extra content that Dying Light 1 has that Dying Light 2 doesn't, it deserves a point, and I think we should give it another point for something that's not even in the game, and that's fan base. There are some hardcore Dying Light 1 fans out there, and you all be going hard in the paint defending its honor, and so should anyone that really enjoyed the game. I'll give another point for how passionate you guys are about that. But in the end, I'm gonna have to say that Dying Light 2 is a better game, and that's simply because it builds on and it improves all of the fantastic things that are in the first game and just makes them better. It's a progression in the series in the right direction. Now, I can understand how a lot of people, justifyingly so, still slated the second game, because when it released it was broken, and so many people out there reported like the game being unplayable. Now, I can imagine a lot of the hatred that goes on Dying Light 2 is Dying Light 1 created a massive fan base. Probably were extremely excited to play the second game. Then when the second game comes out, it's patchy and it's broken, and all the people that were waiting for that second game to be released upon playing it were pretty disappointed, and I understand that. I played it a year after it was released, and I didn't experience any bugs. I think the game's in a really healthy place right now, and it's a shame that its release was rushed. Overall, do think Dying Light 2 is a better game, and through playing Dying Light 2, I wanted to play Dying Light 1. I wanted more of it, and I think that's a great thing. If you agree or disagree with any of the points that I made in this video, please let me know in the comment section, because I'm always interested to hear what you guys have to say. I have to give a major thanks to the feedback and the support I got on my last Dying Light 2 video. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to throw it up on the screen for you now. And if at any time you found yourself enjoying this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. But until next time, peace.